The transmission came at exactly midnight, Earth Standard Time. Every screen on every human world flickered at once. Every radio crackled. Every communication device picked up the signal whether it wanted to or not. General Yuna was drinking her third cup of coffee when her office screens went dark. She set down her cup and waited. She had been a soldier for 32 years. She knew what an enemy broadcast looked like. The screen lit up with an alien face. The creature was tall and covered in dark blue scales. His eyes were yellow and narrow. Two long horns curved backward from his skull. He wore armor made of black metal, and metals hung from his chest like drops of blood. "I am High Commander Voreth of the Varan Empire." The alien spoke. His voice was deep and rough like stones grinding together. "For 10,000 years, my people have conquered the stars. We have crushed 147 species under our feet. We have burned worlds to ash. We have drunk the tears of dying civilizations." Yuna picked up her coffee again. She took a slow sip. "Your kind has spread across this region of space like insects," Voreth continued. His yellow eyes burned with anger. "You have taken worlds that belong to us. You have built your ugly cities on planets we claimed centuries ago. This insult cannot stand." Admiral Tay walked into Yuna's office without knocking. He was a tall man with gray hair and calm eyes. He looked at the screen and then looked at Yuna. "The same message?" he asked. "The same message," she confirmed. They both turned to watch. "In 3 cycles, our fleet will arrive at your borders," Voreth declared. He raised one clawed fist into the air. "We will bring fire and death. We will tear your stations apart. We will crack your planets open like eggs. Your children will scream for mercy, but they will find none." Tay sat down in the chair across from Yuna. He crossed his arms. "The Varan Empire does not negotiate," Voreth growled. "The Varan Empire does not show weakness. The Varan Empire only knows victory. When our war drums beat, civilizations fall. When our war cry echoes across the void, species disappear from history." The alien leaned closer to whatever camera was recording him. His yellow eyes seemed to stare directly at every human watching. "This is your only warning, humans. Surrender now, and some of you might survive as slaves. Resist, and you will be erased. Your cities will become dust. Your history will become nothing. 1,000 years from now, no one will remember that you ever existed." Voreth straightened up. He spread his arms wide. "Hear now the war cry of the Varan Empire. Tremble before the sound that has ended worlds." He opened his mouth and released a sound. It was loud. It was harsh. It rose and fell like a storm. It was meant to shake the hearts of those who heard it. It was meant to fill them with fear and despair. The war cry lasted for 30 seconds. When it finally stopped, Voreth stared at the camera with cold satisfaction. "You have 3 cycles, humans. Prepare to die." The screen went dark. For a long moment, Yuna's office was silent. Her staff stood frozen at their stations. Some of them were pale. Some of them were shaking. A young lieutenant looked like he might be sick. Then Yuna started to laugh. It began as a small sound, just a breath escaping her lips. But it grew. It grew until she was laughing so hard that tears ran down her cheeks. She set down her coffee cup because her hands were shaking too much to hold it. Tay joined her. His laugh was quieter but just as real. He leaned back in his chair and laughed at the ceiling. The staff stared at them with confusion and fear. "General?" the young lieutenant asked. His voice was shaky. "Admiral? Are you all right?" Yuna wiped her eyes. She tried to catch her breath. Every time she almost succeeded, another wave of laughter hit her. "Did you hear that?" she finally managed to say. "Did you hear what he said?" "He threatened to destroy us," the lieutenant said carefully. No, the other part." Yuna waved her hand. "The part about the war cry. The sound that has ended worlds." Tay was still chuckling. "It sounded like my grandfather's old cat, the one that got angry when you touched its belly." This set Yuna off again. She laughed until her stomach hurt. "General, please." Another officer spoke up. She was older and had more control of her voice. The Varan Empire is not a joke. Intelligence reports say they have over 2,000 warships. They have conquered dozens of species. They are a real threat. Yuna finally managed to control herself. She stood up and walked to the window. Outside, the city lights of New Seoul sparkled in the darkness. Millions of people lived their lives below, unaware that an alien empire had just threatened to wipe them out. "Lieutenant Kim," Yuna said without turning around. "How old are you?" 24, General. "And how much do you know about human history?" The lieutenant hesitated. "I studied the standard curriculum. The formation of the United Earth Government. The first colony ships. The discovery of faster-than-light travel. The clean history," Yuna said softly. "The history we teach our children so they can sleep at night." She turned around. Her eyes were still wet from laughing, but her face was serious now. "Before we reached the stars, humans spent thousands of years killing each other. We invented weapons that could burn entire cities in seconds. We created poisons that could kill millions with a single breath. We built machines designed only to cause pain and suffering." The office was very quiet. "We fought wars over land," Yuna continued. "We fought wars over religion. We fought wars over ideas. We fought wars because we were bored. Because we were angry. Because we simply could. We killed so many of our own kind that we lost count." Tay nodded slowly. "The Varan think their war cry is scary because it worked on species who had never known real violence. Species who evolved on peaceful worlds with plenty of resources. Species who never had to fight for survival. But humans are different." Yuna finished. "We grew up on a world that tried to kill us every single day. We fought predators. We fought nature. And most of all, we fought each other." She smiled. But there was no warmth in it. "That alien thinks he can scare us with loud noises and angry words? His empire is 10,000 years old? Humanity has been making war for 100,000 years. We perfected it. We turned it into an art." The young lieutenant swallowed hard. "So what do we do, General?" Yuna sat back down at her desk. She pulled up a communication screen. "We teach these aliens a history lesson. And we hope they are smart enough to listen." The meeting room on Station Harmony was designed for peace. Soft lights glowed from the walls. Comfortable chairs surrounded a round table. Plants from a dozen worlds filled the corners with green and purple leaves. General Yuna thought it was a terrible place to talk about war. 3 alien ambassadors sat across from her. They represented the Galactic Council, a group of species who tried to keep order in this part of the galaxy. The council had heard about the Varan Empire's threat and wanted answers. Ambassador Tella was from a species called the Mori. She looked almost human, except her skin was pale gray and she had no hair. Her large black eyes watched Yuna with worry. Ambassador Kreeth was a Volan, a creature that looked like a large spider with 6 arms and gentle eyes. Despite his scary appearance, the Volan were known as the kindest species in the galaxy. Ambassador Duro was the oldest. He came from a species called the Hen, beings of light that lived in special containment suits. His voice came from a speaker on his chest. "General Yuna," Duro began. His voice was like wind through leaves. "We received reports of your reaction to the Varan war cry. We find it confusing." "You laughed," Tella added. Her gray face showed no emotion, but her voice carried disappointment. "The Varan Empire has destroyed entire civilizations. They are not a joke." Intersevened. Yuna nodded slowly. "I understand your concern, but I think you misunderstand why we laughed." "Then please explain," Kreeth said, his 6 arms folded together nervously. "The Varan have conquered 47 species in the last 1,000 years alone. Their military is legendary. Their cruelty is famous. I do not doubt their strength," Yuna said. "What I doubt is their experience." The 3 ambassadors looked at each other. "Experience?" Duro asked. "The Varan have been fighting wars for 10,000 years." Yuna leaned forward. "And in all that time, have they ever faced an enemy who fought back? Really fought back?" Silence filled the room. "Their conquests," Yuna continued. Have they been against species who knew war? Or against peaceful civilizations who had no idea how to defend themselves? Tella shifted in her seat. Most species in the galaxy evolved on stable worlds. War is unusual. It requires certain conditions: resource scarcity, tribal competition, environmental pressure. Exactly. Yuna stood up and walked to the wall. She touched a panel, and a holographic display appeared in the air. Earth was not a stable world. Our planet tried to kill us in every way possible. Ice ages, volcanic eruptions, asteroid impacts, plagues, floods. Images flickered across the display. A frozen landscape, a volcano spitting fire, a wave swallowing a city, and through all of it, Yuna said quietly, we killed each other. She changed the display. Now it showed ancient humans fighting with clubs and stones. We started with rocks and sticks. We beat each other's heads in over hunting grounds and water sources. We invented the spear so we could kill from a distance. We invented the bow so we could kill from even farther away. The display changed again. Metal swords, armored knights, castle walls. We built fortresses and then invented ways to tear them down. We created armor and then created weapons to pierce it. Every defense was met with a new attack. Every attack was met with a new defense. War became the engine of our progress. Kreth's gentle eyes were wide with horror. This is barbaric. Yes, Yuna agreed. It was. She changed the display once more. Now it showed machines of war, tanks rolling across muddy fields, planes dropping bombs, ships firing missiles. In just the last few hundred years before we reached the stars, we created weapons that could destroy cities in seconds. We built devices that could poison entire continents. We split the atom itself and turned its power into a weapon. The ambassadors stared at the images in shock. The Varan talk about burning worlds, Yuna said. We actually did it. We burned our own world. We came so close to destroying ourselves that it is a miracle we survived. She turned off the display and faced the ambassadors directly. You want to know why we laughed at the Varan war cry? Because we have heard worse. We have done worse. That alien commander thinks he can scare us with threats of cruelty? Our ancestors invented cruelty. They perfected it. They turned it into a science. Duro's containment suit flickered with anxious light. This is deeply troubling, General. You speak of humanity's violence as if it were something to be proud of. Not proud, Yuna said. Aware. We know what we are capable of. We know the darkness that lives in our hearts, and we have spent the last 3 centuries trying to be better. She sat back down. Her voice became softer. When we finally reached the stars, we looked back at our history and felt shame. All those wars, all those deaths, all that suffering, and for what? We decided that we would not bring that violence to the galaxy. We would be peaceful. We would be kind. And you have been, Tella admitted. Humans have been remarkably gentle in your expansion. You trade fairly. You respect boundaries. You help species in need. Because we chose to, Yuna said. Not because we had to. The monster is still inside us. We simply keep it on a leash. She looked at each ambassador in turn. The Varan Empire does not understand what they are facing. They have conquered species who had no concept of war. Species who surrendered at the first sign of violence because they could not imagine fighting back. But humans, Kreth began. Humans will fight, Yuna finished. We will fight even when we are losing. We will fight even when there is no hope. We will fight until the last ship is destroyed. The last soldier is dead. The last planet is burning. And even then, we will probably find a way to keep fighting. The room fell silent again. Admiral Tay, who had been standing quietly by the door, finally spoke. We do not want war. We have seen enough of it to last forever. But if the Varan force us to fight, they will learn something terrible. What? Duro asked. Tay's calm eyes met the ambassador's glowing form. They will learn that humans do not lose wars. We simply run out of enemies. Tella stood up suddenly. Her gray face had turned even paler. "We need to contact the Varan. We need to warn them." "That is exactly what we plan to do," Yuna said. "We are going to send them a message. Not a threat. Not a war cry. Something much more effective." "What?" Kreth asked. Yuna smiled. But there was sadness in her eyes. "The truth. We are going to show them exactly what humanity is capable of. And then we are going to give them a chance to walk away." She stood up and straightened her uniform. "Because despite everything in our history, despite all the blood on our hands, we have learned one thing above all else." "What is that?" Duro asked. "The best war," Yuna said quietly, "is the one you never have to fight." Admiral Tay stood alone in the transmission room. The walls were covered with screens and equipment. A small camera pointed at his face, ready to send his message across the stars. He had spent 3 hours preparing this response. He had chosen every word carefully. But the words were not the important part. "Open a channel to the Varan fleet," he said. "Channel open, Admiral," a technician replied from behind a glass wall. Tay took a deep breath. He looked directly at the camera. "High Commander Vorath of the Varan Empire," he began. His voice was calm and steady. "I am Admiral Tay of the United Human Defense Force. We received your message. Unwide one friend. We he fills off to way. And he one fills one wide one. I have came subscribed to way. We he was Ron Singh." He paused for a moment. "We are not going to surrender. But before you decide to attack, we want to share something with you. Not threats. Not angry words. Just information. Number 2. Tay pressed a button on the console in front of him. "We are sending you files from our historical archives. I suggest you watch them carefully. After you have seen what we have to show you, perhaps we can talk again." The transmission ended. The files began to travel through space at faster than light speeds, racing toward the Varan fleet. 50 light-years away, High Commander Vorath sat on his throne aboard the warship Destroyer of Worlds. His yellow eyes narrowed when he received the human message. "They refuse to surrender?" he growled. "And they send us files? What kind of response is this?" His second-in-command, a scarred veteran named Wrath, stood beside him. "It could be a virus, Commander. An attack on our systems. Scan them," Vorath ordered. "Already done, Commander. They are clean, just data files, video recordings, mostly." Vorath leaned back on his throne. "They send us videos instead of begging for mercy. These humans are either very brave or very stupid. Should we delete them?" Wrath asked. "No." Vorath's curiosity was stronger than his anger. "Play them. Let us see what these insects consider important enough to send." The main screen of the bridge flickered to life. The first video showed a battlefield, thousands of humans in gray uniforms charged across open ground. Explosions tore through their lines. Bodies flew through the air, but the survivors kept running. They crashed into another army and began fighting with bayonets and bare hands. "What is this?" Vorath asked. Text appeared at the bottom of the screen. World War I. The Somme. 1,916. Over 1 million casualties in 4 months. 1 million? Wrath repeated. His voice cracked. In 4 months? The video changed. Now it showed a city in flames. Strange flying machines dropped bombs from above. Buildings collapsed. People ran through streets filled with fire and smoke. Text. World War II. Dresden. 1,945. Civilian casualties. 25,000 inches one night. Vorath said nothing. His yellow eyes were fixed on the screen. The next video showed a cloud, a massive cloud shaped like a mushroom, rising into the sky. Below it, a city disappeared in a flash of white light. Text. Nuclear weapon test. Humans created devices capable of destroying entire cities instantly. These weapons were used against human cities. Against their own cities? Roth whispered. They used these weapons on themselves? Quiet, Vorath hissed. More videos followed. Trenches filled with dead bodies, ships sinking in burning oceans, tanks rolling over fields littered with the fallen, cities reduced to rubble, forests turned to ash. Each video came with numbers. The numbers were always large, always horrible. Battle of Stalingrad, 2 million casualties. Mongol conquests, 40 million deaths. World War II total, 70 to 85 million deaths. The videos kept coming. Different eras, different weapons, different uniforms, but always the same result: humans killing humans in numbers that made no sense. Then the tone of the videos changed. Now they showed humans winning impossible battles. A small group of soldiers holding a mountain pass against thousands. A single ship fighting off an entire fleet. Cities under siege for years, their people starving but refusing to surrender. Text: Thermopylae, Alamo, Stalingrad, Leningrad. When humans decide to fight, they do not stop. The final video was different from all the others. It showed humans working together, building cities from ruins, planting trees in wastelands, reaching out hands to help each other stand. Text: And after every war, humans rebuild. They forgive. They move forward. They survive. Admiral Tay's face appeared on the screen one last time. "High Commander Vorath," he said. "What you have just watched is a small sample of human history. We have thousands of years of warfare in our records. Millions of battles, billions of deaths." His calm eyes seemed to look directly at Vorath. "We are not proud of this history. We have spent centuries trying to become better. But the capacity for war still lives in our blood. It is part of who we are." Tay leaned slightly forward. "Your empire has conquered species who did not know how to fight back. You have faced enemies who surrendered at your war cry. We are not those enemies. If you attack us, we will not surrender. We will fight. And we will keep fighting until one of us is destroyed. Maybe that will be us. Maybe it will be you. But either way, the cost will be terrible. Your empire will bleed. Your worlds will burn. Your soldiers will die in numbers you cannot imagine." Quote. Tay's expression softened slightly. "We do not want this. We have seen enough death to know that war benefits no one. We would rather trade with your empire. Share knowledge. Build something together. But if you force us to fight, we will. And we will show you horrors that your empire has never faced in 10,000 years of conquest." He straightened up. "You have 2 cycles to respond. Think carefully about what you have seen. Think about what kind of enemy you want to face. And then, make your choice." The screen went dark. The bridge of the Destroyer of Worlds was completely silent. Officers stood frozen at their stations. No one dared to speak. Vorath stared at the empty screen for a long time. His clawed hands gripped the arms of his throne so hard that the metal bent. "Commander?" Wrath finally asked. His voice was barely a whisper. "What are your orders?" Vorath did not answer immediately. His mind was racing through everything he had just seen. The battles. The weapons. The numbers. 70 million dead in a single war. And they called it World War II. Which meant there was a World War I. These creatures had been fighting each other since before the Varan Empire even existed. "Commander?" Wrath asked again. Vorath finally spoke. His voice was quiet, uncertain. "Summon my intelligence officers. I want to know everything about these humans. Everything." He looked at the dark screen one more time. "I think," he said slowly, "we may have made a terrible mistake." Emperor Krath the Eternal sat upon the throne of conquest. The throne was made from the bones of fallen enemy leaders, a tradition that stretched back thousands of years. Around him, the great hall of the imperial palace gleamed with gold and precious stones taken from conquered worlds. He was the ruler of the Varan Empire. His word was law across 1,000 star systems. His armies had never known defeat. And right now, he was furious. "Explain this to me again," he growled at the figure kneeling before him. You are telling me that my greatest war commander is afraid of a species we had never heard of until 10 years ago? Intelligence Chief Mora kept her head bowed. She was old for a Varan. Her scales faded to a pale blue, but her mind was still sharp. And right now, that sharp mind was filled with terror. Not afraid, Your Eternal Majesty, she said carefully, concerned. High Commander Vorath has requested additional information before proceeding with the invasion. Additional information? The Emperor's voice echoed through the hall. What information could possibly matter? We have 2,000 ships. They have less than 500. This should not even be a battle. Mora swallowed hard. The humans sent us historical records, Your Majesty. Records of their wars. High Commander Vorath found them. Disturbing. Disturbing? The Emperor laughed, but there was no humor in the sound. What could these small, soft creatures possibly do that would disturb a Varan war commander? Mora finally looked up. Her eyes met the Emperor's. Everything, Your Majesty. The hall fell silent. Show me, the Emperor commanded. Mora gestured to a technician standing in the shadows. The great screens along the walls of the throne room flickered to life. The same videos that had played for Vorath now played for the Emperor. The room full of advisors and generals watched in growing silence. Some of them shifted uncomfortably. Others could not look away. When the final video ended with Admiral Tay's message, the Emperor sat very still. This is propaganda, he finally said. Fake records designed to frighten us. We verified them, Your Majesty, Mora replied. Multiple sources. Different archives. The records are authentic. Then these are ancient events. Perhaps they were violent once, but they have grown soft. End quote. Also incorrect, Your Majesty. Mora gestured, and new data appeared on the screens. In the last 300 years, humans have fought 17 internal conflicts. They have developed weapons that exceed even our most advanced technology. And they have begun producing warships at a rate we cannot match. General Vex, the commander of the Imperial Guard, stepped forward. He was missing one eye. Lost in battle centuries ago. Your Majesty, perhaps we should hear the intelligence report in full. The Emperor waved his hand impatiently. Speak then. Tell me about these humans. Mora stood slowly. Her old joints cracked, but her voice was steady. The humans come from a world called Earth. It is a mid-sized planet with a single moon. By galactic standards, it is unremarkable. What is remarkable is what that planet produced. She changed the display to show a blue and green world. Earth's environment is hostile. Extreme temperatures, violent weather, predators in every ecosystem. Disease and natural disasters were constant threats. The humans evolved not just to survive these conditions, but to dominate them. Many species evolve on hostile worlds, General Vex said. It does not make them special. True, Mora agreed. But most species on hostile worlds develop cooperation as their primary survival strategy. Humans developed competition. They fought each other for resources, even when cooperation would have been more efficient. She changed the display again. Now it showed a timeline stretching back millions of years. For over 100,000 years, humans have been making war. Not just hunting, not just defending territory. True organized warfare with strategies and tactics and weapons designed specifically to kill other humans. The Emperor shifted on his throne of bones. And they say this makes them dangerous? It makes them experienced, Your Majesty. Mora's voice grew quieter. The Varan Empire has been making war for 10,000 years. In that time, we have faced 147 species. Most of them surrendered after seeing our fleet. The rest fell within months. She paused. The humans have been at war for 10 times longer than our empire has existed. They have fought millions of battles. They have developed every weapon imaginable, and some that should not be imagined. They have practiced warfare against the only enemy that could truly match them themselves. The hall was completely silent. Our battle tactics, Mora continued, are considered basic by human standards. They abandoned similar strategies thousands of years ago. Our weapons, while powerful, are less advanced than what they use. Our fleet is larger, but their ships are faster, stronger, and more heavily armed. Impossible, the Emperor snapped. We are the greatest military power in the galaxy. We were, Your Majesty. Mora bowed her head. Before we found the humans. General Vex stepped forward again. His single eye was troubled. Your Majesty, there is more. Our agents have gathered reports from species that have traded with humans. They speak of something called human resilience. What is that? Humans do not surrender, Vex explained. Even when they are clearly losing, even when death is certain, they will fight to the last soldier, destroy their own ships rather than let them be captured, and sabotage their own planets rather than see them fall to enemies. He pulled up a report on the screens. During their World War II, a human city called Stalingrad was under attack for over 2 years. The population dropped from 500,000 to less than 10,000. Food ran out. Water ran out. Ammunition ran out. The defenders fought with broken weapons, with rocks, with their bare hands. They did not surrender. They lost, the Emperor said. No, Your Majesty. They won. The attackers eventually gave up. The city held. The Emperor fell silent again. There is one more thing, Mora said. Her voice had become very quiet. The humans have a concept they call mutually assured destruction. Explain. During their history, the humans developed weapons capable of destroying their entire planet. Multiple nations possessed these weapons. Any one of them could have eliminated all life on Earth. Mora looked directly at the Emperor. They pointed these weapons at each other for decades. Each side knew that if they attacked, the other side would respond. Everyone would die. No one would win. That is insane, one of the advisors muttered. Yes, Mora agreed. But it worked. The humans learned to live with total destruction as a daily possibility. They built their entire civilization around the idea that everything could end at any moment. She spread her hands. Your Majesty, the humans are not afraid of death. They are not afraid of destruction. They have been living with both for their entire history. Our war cry, our threats, our reputation, none of it means anything to them. They have faced worse from each other. The Emperor sat in silence for a long time. The hall waited. Finally, he spoke. His voice was different now. Quieter, almost uncertain. And Vorath believes we cannot win against such an enemy? High Commander Vorath believes we could eventually defeat the humans, Mora replied carefully. But the cost would be catastrophic. We might lose half our fleet. Perhaps more. Our empire would be weakened for centuries. And during that time, General Vex added, our other conquered territories might see an opportunity to rebel. The Emperor looked at his throne of bones. For the first time in his long reign, he wondered if someday his bones might join them not as a conqueror, but as the conquered. What do the humans want? He asked. Trade, Mora answered. Peaceful relations. They have offered to share technology and resources. They seem genuinely uninterested in conquest. Then why did we threaten them in the first place? Mora hesitated. Because we did not know, Your Majesty. We saw a young species expanding into our territory and assumed they were like all the others. We were wrong. 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 The Emperor closed his eyes. Contact Vorath, he said finally. Tell him to hold position. We need to reconsider our strategy. Contact. As the orders were given and the hall emptied, the Emperor remained on his throne. He had ruled for 300 years. He had conquered worlds without number. He had never known fear. Until now, the Varan fleet hung in space at the edge of human territory. 2,000 warships, each one capable of destroying a planet, the largest military force the galaxy had ever seen. And not a single one of them was moving forward. High Commander Vorath stood on the bridge of his flagship, staring at the tactical display. The human border was only a few light years away. He could see their defense stations, their patrol ships, their weapons platforms. They were outnumbered 4-1. By every logical calculation, the Varan should win easily. But Vorath had watched the videos 100 times now. He had studied the reports. He had read everything his intelligence officers could find about humanity, and he knew that logic meant nothing against creatures like these. "Commander," his communications officer called out. "We are receiving a transmission from the human fleet. Put it through." Admiral Tay's face appeared on the screen. The human looked calm, almost relaxed. There was no fear in his eyes. "High Commander Voreth," Tay said. "Your fleet has been sitting at our border for 2 days. We are curious about your intentions." Voreth straightened his shoulders. Even now, he had his pride. "We are reassessing the situation," he said carefully. "The intelligence we received has raised some questions." "Questions?" Tay tilted his head slightly. "What kind of questions?" "Questions about your species, your capabilities, your history." Tay nodded slowly. "And what have you learned?" Voreth was silent for a moment. Around him, his bridge crew pretended not to listen. They were all waiting for his answer. "I have learned," Voreth said finally, "that the Varan Empire has made many assumptions about the galaxy. Perhaps some of those assumptions were wrong. Perhaps they were." Tay agreed. "I have also learned that your species is unlike anything we have encountered before. You are not soft. You are not weak. You are simply choosing not to be violent." "That is correct." Voreth's yellow eyes met Tay's through the screen. "Why? With your history, your weapons, your experience, you could conquer the entire galaxy. Why do you hold back?" Tay's expression changed slightly. Something that might have been sadness flickered across his face. "Because we have seen where that path leads, High Commander. We walked it for 100,000 years. We know its every step, every turn, every dead end." He leaned forward slightly. "Conquest brings only more war. Victory brings only more enemies. Power brings only more fear. We tried all of it, and it nearly destroyed us. So you choose peace? We choose survival. Real survival. Not just for a generation or a century, but forever. That requires cooperation, not conquest." Voreth considered this for a long moment. Then he asked the question that had been burning in his mind. "If we had attacked you, what would have happened?" Tay's answer was immediate. "You would have won the first battles. Our outer colonies would have fallen. Many humans would have died. And then? And then you would have learned why every human school teaches strategy. Why every human child plays war games. Why our species spent thousands of years becoming the most efficient killers in existence." Tay's voice remained calm, but something hard entered his eyes. "Your empire has conquered species who folded at the first sign of force. We would not fold. We would retreat, regroup, and counterattack. We would target your supply lines. We would sabotage your ships. We would turn every human world into a fortress and every human citizen into a soldier. You would fight back," Voreth said. "We would do more than fight back. We would make you bleed for every light year. We would turn this war into a nightmare that would haunt your empire for generations. And even if you eventually won, you would wonder if it was worth the cost." Voreth nodded slowly. This was what he had suspected, what he had feared. "Admiral Tay," he said, "I am going to recommend to my emperor that we withdraw from your borders. This does not mean we are afraid. Of course not. It means we are wise. The Varan Empire prefers to fight battles we can win cleanly. This would not be a clean victory. We're counter take a flatter." "No," Tay agreed, "it would not. Perhaps in the future we can find another way. Trade, as your ambassador suggested. Cultural exchange. Something that benefits both our peoples." Tay smiled slightly. It was the first time Voreth had seen a human smile. "We would welcome that, High Commander. Humanity has much to offer, and we are always interested in learning from others." Voreth raised his fist to his chest in a formal salute. "Then we shall speak again, Admiral, under better circumstances. I look forward to it." The transmission ended. Voreth turned to his crew. "Signal the fleet," he ordered. "We are returning to Varan space." No one questioned the order. No one complained. The officers simply nodded and began the work of turning 2,000 warships around. As the fleet began its long journey home, Vorath wondered how history would remember this moment. A retreat without battle, a withdrawal without defeat. Some would call it cowardice. Some would call it wisdom. He suspected the humans would call it progress. News of the retreat spread quickly through the galaxy. Within days, every species in every system knew what had happened. The Varan Empire, the most feared military power in known space, had backed down from war. Not because they were defeated, not because they were outmatched in weapons or ships, they had backed down because they were afraid of humans. The Galactic Council met to discuss the implications. Ambassador Tella of the Mori spoke first. "This changes everything," she said. "For thousands of years, the Varan have been the dominant force in this region. Other species have paid tribute out of fear. Entire civilizations have shaped their policies around avoiding Varan attention. And now?" Kreth the Volan asked. "Now there is a new force in the galaxy. A species that made the Varan reconsider their conquest. A species that turned away an invasion with nothing but historical records and a warning." Ambassador Duro's light form pulsed thoughtfully. "The humans did not threaten destruction. They did not boast about their weapons. They simply showed the Varan what they were capable of. And that was enough," Tella finished. Across the galaxy, species that had lived in fear for centuries began to whisper new questions. What kind of creatures were these humans? What kind of civilization made the Varan Empire hesitate? What kind of species laughed at war cries that had terrified the galaxy for 10,000 years? Back on Earth, General Yuna received the news of the Varan withdrawal in her office. She read the report once, then set it aside. Admiral Tay joined her a few minutes later. He found her standing at the window, looking out at the city lights of New Sol. "We won," he said simply. "We avoided a war," she corrected. "That is not the same as winning." "Close enough for me." Yuna turned to face him. Her eyes were thoughtful. "Do you think they understand now? The Varan? The Council? All of them? Do they understand what we really are?" Tay considered the question. "I think they understand part of it. They see our capacity for violence, our history of war, our refusal to surrender. And the other part?" Tay smiled slightly. "The part where we spent 3 centuries trying to be better? The part where we chose peace even though war came naturally? I think that will take longer for them to understand." Yuna nodded. She picked up her coffee cup and found it empty. "You know what the funny thing is?" she said. "What?" "That alien commander's war cry. The sound that was supposed to terrify us into submission." Tay chuckled. "What about it?" Yuna finally smiled. A real smile, warm and genuine. It really did sound like an angry cat. They both laughed. Outside the window, the city of New Sol continued its peaceful night. Millions of humans lived their lives, unaware of how close they had come to war, and somewhere in the depths of space, a fleet of 2,000 warships was heading home, carrying a lesson that would change the galaxy forever. Humanity was not to be conquered. Humanity was not to be threatened. Humanity, against all odds, had chosen to be gentle. And that choice, made by a species capable of unimaginable destruction, was perhaps the most terrifying thing of all.